Hello everyone, glad to see you again. In last lesson, we have learned the 4 natures and 5 flavors of Chinese medicinal herbs. What are the 4 natures of Chinese medicinal herbs? They are cold, hot, warm, and cold, which also called the 4 properties, and pungent, sweet, sour, bitter, and salty consist of the 5 flavors of Chinese medicinal herbs. Today, we continue our study of properties and actions of Chinese medicinal herbs. Part 2. In this section, we will learn the lifting, lowering, floating, and sinking acting directions of Chinese medicinal herbs, meridian tropism of Chinese medicinal herbs, and toxicity of Chinese medicinal herbs. Let's start one by one. First, we are going to learn the 4 acting directions of Chinese medicinal herbs. Due to disease often appear to bear a tendency to move upward, downward, towards to the exterior or interior. Correspondingly, the acting directions of medicinal herbs on human body also have the lifting, lowering, floating, and sinking directions. They have the different acting directions in human body when they are taken. The lifting, lowering, floating, and sinking of medicinal herbs are generally based upon their natures, flavors, and qualities. Generally speaking, Chinese medicinal herbs, pungent and sweet in flavor, warm and hot in nature, are mostly lifting and floating in their actions, such as Huang Qi has the functions of tonifying qi to invigorate yang, benefiting the lung to strengthen the body, relieving skin infection, and promoting tissue regeneration, while those bitter, sour, and salty in flavor and cold or cool in nature herbs are mostly sinking and lowering in their actions, such as Daihuang is bitter in flavor, cold in nature. It can remove stagnation by purgation, clear away hate, and purge fire, cool blood, and stop bleeding, remove toxin, and promote blood circulation to remove blood stasis. Chinese medicinal herbs of flowers, leaves, and branches, which are light in proper and growing up, has the lifting and floating action. And the fruits, seeds, and the minerals, which are heavy in quality, are sinking and lowering. For example, 紫苏叶, the source of this herb is from the leaves of Perilla frutescens. The leaves are collected in summer and autumn, dried in shade. It is pungent in flavor, warm in nature, which has the function of relieving superficial pathogenic factors to dissipate cold and promote the circulation of qi and regulating the functions of stomach and mu li. The shell of oyster is salty in flavor, slightly cold in nature, which has the function of calm the liver yang, soften hardness and mass, invigorate the kidney to preserve essence. While some of the Chinese medicinal herbs, like houpu, a bark of a tree, it has warm nature, pungent and bitter flavor. It is applied to lower qi and relieve dyspnea. And xuanfu hua, a candle flower, can lower qi. Besides the lifting, lowering, floating, and thinking actions may be affected by some medicinal processing or medicinal combination. For example, the stir baked with one processing can change the thinking and lowering action herbs to lifting and floating action herbs. After the general introduction of 4 acting directions, we will discuss them one by one. Lifting means that the acting direction of Chinese herbs is toward the upper parts. Those that possess the lifting action are indicated for a disease in a lower and deeper part. For example, Huang Qi and Sheng Ma can raise spleen qi and are indicated for syndrome of visceral pertussis due to the spleen qi deficiency in the symptoms of chronic diarrhea and the prolapse of the rectum, prolapse of uterus, and gastroparesis. Lowering means that the acting direction of Chinese herbs is toward the lower parts and possess the actions of descending adverse qi, which can be applied for the disease due to adverse ascending of pathogenic factors. For example, 代赭石 and 沉香 can descend adverse of flu qi, subdue exuberance yang of the liver, and descend adverse qi of stomach, which can indicate for bleeding, painful swollen gum due to ascendancy of rebellious qi, and fire, dizziness due to exuberance of liver yang, cough, and dyspnea due to abnormal rising of lung qi. Floating means that the acting direction of Chinese herbs is toward the upper and the outward. For example, the warm in nature and pungent in flavor herbs have effects of sweating and dispersing. We will say their act is floating. These kinds of herbs are indicated for the disease in the upper and superficial parts. For example, 麻黄, 防风, and 毒火 can dispel wind cold and dampness from the exterior and are indicated for wind and cold exterior syndrome, wind damp type of B syndrome. Sinking means that the acting direction of Chinese herbs is towards the lower and inward. For example, 代黄 is cold in nature and bitter in flavor, has the effects of purging heat, cooling blood, and stopping bleeding. And 枳实 is slightly cold in nature and bitter and pungent in flavor, which can break stagnation of qi and remove food retention. In end, lifting and lowering, floating and sinking medicinal properties are the two couples whose direction of actions is opposite. Lifting and floating are similar in their actions, so are sinking and lowering. The lifting and floating medicinal herbs move in ascending and outward directions, which has the functions of invigorating splenic yang, relieving superficies, expelling wind and cold, and resuscitation. The lowering and sinking medicinal herbs moves descending and inward directions, generally have the effects of clearing away heat, lowering the adverse flow of qi, and purging heat. Meridian tropism refers to that medicinal herbs may often produce their therapeutic effects on some portion of a human body in preference. In other words, their therapeutic action is mainly on some viscera or some channels, but it seems to have fewer effects on the other viscera and channels. For example, 清脾 and 香附 indicated for syndrome of the disorder of the liver meridian, marked by distending pain of breast and hypochondrial pain, are attributed to liver meridian. So, generally speaking, what meridians a medicinal herb is attributed to is just related to the certain meridian or meridians on which the herb may work. Toxicity refers to a harmful effect of medicinal herbs to the human body. Sometimes, poisoning dosage is close or same to the dosage of treating dosage for the poisoner's medicinal herbs. So, the safety margin is small and toxicity is easily resulted. In order to ensure the safety in your treatment and bring the therapeutic effects in administration and avoid toxic reaction, the strictly processing and control of dosage should be followed. For example, foods is prepared through soaking. Its toxicity decreases and it can be widely used in iron deficiency syndrome. In summary, the 4 properties and 5 flavors and the lifting, lowering, floating, and sinking actions of medicinal herbs, so as to the meridian tropism and toxicity, all explain the properties and actions of Chinese medicinal herbs from different points of view, which jointly constitutes properties and actions of Chinese medicinal herbs. Okay, that's all for today. Look forward to seeing you in next section.